There is a moment most people never notice because it arrives without noise and leaves without explanation, quietly passing between two heartbeats. It exists in the subtle pause between one breath leaving the body and the next breath gently arriving. In that fragile space, something inside you is constantly communicating, shaping your inner world without asking for permission. It does not speak in language or logic, and it does not announce itself with urgency or fear. It speaks through rhythm, sensation, warmth, and pressure, using a language older than thought. Almost no one is ever taught that this language exists, let alone how to listen to it. From early childhood, we are trained to trust the mind above all other forms of intelligence. We are praised for thinking faster, analyzing deeper, and pushing further, even when the body feels overwhelmed. The heart is reduced to a background organ, described as nothing more than a biological pump keeping us alive. Yet beneath the surface of everyday stress and ambition, the heart is doing far more than circulating blood. It is sensing emotional environments, responding to inner states, and influencing decisions before logic appears. Long before a conscious thought forms, the heart has already reacted and sent its signal forward. Ancient Buddhist monks understood this truth without scientific instruments or medical terminology. They did not dissect the body to discover wisdom, but instead sat in silence and observed experience directly. They noticed how anger tightened the chest, how compassion softened the breath, and how fear disrupted rhythm. Through practices like metta, or loving kindness, they learned to intentionally cultivate emotional harmony in the heart. This was not philosophy for them, but a lived experiment repeated daily in stillness. What they discovered intuitively is now slowly being confirmed by modern neuroscience. Modern science has revealed that the heart contains its own complex neural network capable of processing information. Researchers have found that the heart sends more signals to the brain than the brain sends to the heart. These signals influence emotional regulation, stress response, and even how we perceive reality. When the heart's rhythm becomes chaotic, the brain struggles to function with clarity and calm. When the heart's rhythm becomes coherent, the nervous system shifts into balance and resilience. This state of harmony is now known as heart coherence. Heart coherence is not a mystical idea, nor is it limited to spiritual traditions or belief systems. It is a measurable physiological state where the heart, brain, and nervous system synchronize. In this state, stress hormones decrease while healing and regenerative processes increase. Blood pressure stabilizes, emotional reactivity softens, and mental clarity improves naturally. What is remarkable is that emotions play a greater role in this process than thoughts. The heart responds more to how you feel than to what you think. This is where Buddhist Metta quietly enters the conversation, not as religion, but as psychology of the heart. Metta is the practice of generating genuine feelings of goodwill, compassion, and warmth toward oneself and others. When practiced sincerely, it creates a gentle emotional environment inside the body. The heart responds immediately, shifting its rhythm into smoother, more harmonious patterns. This emotional coherence then signals the brain to relax its defensive patterns. Without force or effort, the body begins to heal itself from within. Most people live in a state of chronic inner tension without realizing it. Their breath may be calm, but their heart rhythm remains disrupted by unresolved emotional stress. They meditate while holding self-judgment, and they rest while silently worrying about the future. The body interprets this emotional noise as a continuous threat. Over time, this constant low-grade stress erodes cardiovascular health, immunity, and emotional stability. The heart was never meant to live in survival mode for decades. Buddha never spoke about heart coherence in scientific terms, but he spoke endlessly about inner harmony. He taught that suffering arises when the mind resists reality and the heart closes in fear. When the heart opens through compassion and understanding, suffering naturally diminishes. This opening is not emotional weakness, but physiological intelligence expressing itself. A calm heart stabilizes the mind, and a stabilized mind sees reality clearly. Health, clarity, and wisdom emerge as natural consequences, not forced achievements. At this point in the journey, a quiet question begins to surface within the listener. What if the heart has been trying to guide you all along, but but you were never taught its language? What if many of your health struggles are not failures, but signals asking for emotional coherence? What if peace is not something you think your way into, but something you feel your way toward? These questions are not meant to be answered immediately. They are meant to linger, gently opening a door inward. Most people believe stress begins in the mind, as if thoughts alone create tension in the body. But neuroscience now shows that stress often begins deeper, in emotional memory stored beneath conscious thought. The heart senses threat, rejection, or uncertainty faster than the rational brain can interpret it. Before you label something as fear or worry, the heart has already shifted its rhythm. This shift quietly instructs the nervous system to prepare for danger or safety. Your biology responds long before your logic has a chance to speak. Inside the body, the autonomic nervous system constantly scans for emotional signals. It does not care about your intentions, affirmations, or positive thinking. It responds only to coherence or chaos in emotional tone. When the heart rhythm becomes irregular due to unresolved emotional stress, the nervous system stays alert. Cortisol and adrenaline circulate longer than they should, keeping the body in a subtle fight or flight mode. Over time, this becomes the baseline state that feels normal, even though it is not healthy. This is why many people feel exhausted without knowing why. Their bodies are not broken, but perpetually bracing. Their hearts are not failing, but struggling to find rhythm in emotional noise. The body interprets emotional incoherence as an unsafe environment. It prioritizes survival over repair, protection over regeneration. Healing processes slow down, not because of disease, but because of constant vigilance. Buddhist teachings never separated emotion from physical consequence. They observed that states like anger, fear, and craving disturb inner balance. Not morally, but biologically and psychologically. A disturbed heart creates a disturbed perception of reality. This distorted perception then feeds back into emotional suffering. The cycle continues until awareness gently interrupts it. Metta was never meant to be a sentimental practice. It was designed as a physiological recalibration of the heart. By intentionally generating feelings of goodwill, the emotional tone inside the body changes. The heart responds by smoothing its rhythm and stabilizing its signals. This coherence sends a message of safety to the brain and nervous system. The body finally receives permission to stand down. Modern heart rate variability research reveals something remarkable. Emotional states like appreciation, compassion, and calm focus create ordered heart rhythms. These rhythms synchronize communication between the heart and the brain. Cognitive performance improves not because of effort, but because resistance drops. Decision-making becomes clearer, reactions soften, and perception widens. This is not spiritual theory, but measurable physiological response. Epigenetics adds another layer to this understanding. Your emotional environment influences which genes are expressed or silenced. Chronic emotional stress activates inflammatory pathways linked to cardiovascular disease. Emotional coherence, on the other hand, supports genetic expression related to repair and resilience. Your heart is not just reacting to life, but shaping how your body adapts to it. Every emotional state becomes a biological instruction. This explains why some people follow perfect diets and exercise routines yet remain unwell. Their outer habits are aligned, but their inner emotional climate remains hostile or fragmented. The body cannot thrive in an environment of inner conflict. Metta works not by forcing positivity, but by softening inner resistance. It teaches the heart that safety can exist even in uncertainty. That message alone begins to change everything. Trauma is often misunderstood as a memory of events. In reality, trauma is a memory of how the heart learned to contract. The body remembers emotional threat long after the mind forgets the story. The heart maintains defensive rhythms to prevent future pain. These rhythms shape posture, breath, and even facial expression. Healing requires teaching the heart that the danger has passed.
Buddhist compassion practices were never about fixing others. They were methods for releasing stored emotional contraction. When compassion flows inward first, the heart relaxes its grip. This relaxation signals safety throughout the nervous system. Slowly, the body exits survival mode and enters restoration. This is why compassion feels like relief rather than effort. Silence plays a crucial role in this process. Not forced silence, but attentive stillness where sensations are allowed to speak. When you sit quietly and feel the heart without judgment, coherence begins naturally. The body recognizes being seen and listened to. This recognition itself is healing. Awareness becomes medicine without needing to do anything else. At this stage of the journey, something subtle begins to shift. The viewer may notice their breath slowing as they listen. Their chest may feel warmer, less guarded, more present. This is not imagination, but physiological response to emotional resonance. Your nervous system is responding to coherence even through words. The heart learns through experience, not explanation.
A deeper question now quietly emerges beneath awareness. What if emotional regulation is not about control, but about harmony? What if peace is not achieved by eliminating stress, but by changing how the heart responds? What if the heart has always known how to heal, waiting only for permission? These questions do not demand answers yet. They prepare the ground for something deeper that is about to unfold. At some point in life, most people begin to confuse who they are with what they feel. A heavy emotion becomes an identity, and a passing fear becomes a permanent label. The mind builds a story around these sensations, calling it personality or fate. Yet beneath every story, the heart remains quietly observant. It does not argue, judge, or define. It simply responds to whether it feels safe or threatened. Neuroscience now shows that the sense of self is not fixed, but constantly reconstructed. The brain uses bodily signals, especially from the heart, to determine identity. If the heart sends signals of danger, the self feels small and defensive. If the heart sends signals of coherence, the self feels spacious and resilient. Your identity shifts not because you decide to change, but because your physiology does. The heart plays a central role in shaping who you believe you are. This is why repeated emotional stress hardens identity. A heart trained in vigilance produces a self trained in fear. A heart conditioned by rejection produces a self shaped by doubt. These patterns feel personal, but they are biological habits. The body repeats what once protected it. The heart remembers survival even when survival is no longer needed. Buddhist teachings addressed this long before psychology named it. The Buddha spoke of the self as a process, not an entity. He observed how clinging to sensations creates suffering. When the heart contracts around fear or desire, the self contracts with it. When the heart relaxes, the self loosens its grip. Freedom begins as a physiological softening, not a philosophical insight. Metta gently disrupts the illusion of a fixed self. When goodwill is offered inward, the heart experiences safety without conditions. This safety dissolves the need for defensive identity. You do not become someone new, you remember what was always there. The self becomes flexible, responsive, and alive. Coherence restores movement where rigidity once lived. Modern psychology calls this emotional repatterning. Neuroscience calls it neuroplasticity. Buddhism simply calls it awakening from habit. The language differs, but the experience is the same. The heart stops broadcasting threat, and the brain stops constructing fear-based identity. Peace emerges as a byproduct, not a goal. Many people seek healing by analyzing their past endlessly. They revisit memories hoping understanding will bring release. But the heart does not heal through explanation. It heals through new experiences of safety and connection. Metta creates these experiences internally, without needing external validation. The heart learns in real time that it is no longer alone. Heart coherence plays a quiet but decisive role here. When coherence stabilizes, the body feels grounded in the present. The past loses its grip because the nervous system no longer expects danger. The future loses its power because vigilance softens. Time collapses into presence. The self stops defending and starts inhabiting life. This is why moments of deep calm feel strangely familiar. They are not new states, but remembered ones. The heart recognizes coherence as its natural rhythm. Children live in this state before emotional conditioning sets in. Buddhist practice is not about acquiring wisdom, but unlearning contraction. The heart leads the way back. As coherence deepens, perception begins to change subtly. You notice space where there was once tension. You respond instead of react. Silence feels supportive rather than empty. Your body becomes a place you can inhabit safely. This is not detachment from life, but deeper participation in it. At this point in the journey, another quiet realization arises. What if the self you've been trying to improve was never broken? What if suffering came not from who you are, but from how the heart learned to protect itself? What if compassion is not something you give, but something you allow? These insights are not meant to excite the mind. They are meant to settle the heart. The Buddha described liberation as the end of unnecessary struggle. Not the end of effort, but the end of resistance to experience. Heart coherence embodies this teaching physically. When the heart stops fighting reality, the nervous system aligns. The self relaxes into what is, and life begins to feel less like a battle and more like a flow. As this understanding sinks in, the journey naturally prepares for its final movement. The question is no longer what the heart is doing. The question becomes how to live from this coherence in daily life. Not as a practice you perform, but as a way you inhabit each moment. The answer is not dramatic. It is quiet, practical, and deeply human. Eventually, the journey returns to ordinary life because transformation is never meant to stay abstract. The heart does not ask you to leave the world, only to meet it differently. When coherence becomes familiar, daily moments begin to feel less rushed and more inhabited. You walk, speak, and listen with a subtle sense of alignment inside the chest. This alignment is not emotional excitement, but quiet steadiness. The heart has found its rhythm, and the body follows. From a cardiovascular perspective, this shift is profound. A coherent heart rhythm reduces strain on blood vessels and stabilizes blood pressure naturally. Inflammatory markers linked to chronic stress begin to soften over time. The heart no longer works against the nervous system, but with it. Healing becomes less about intervention and more about cooperation. Health emerges as harmony rather than control. This does not mean life becomes free of challenges. Stress still appears, emotions still rise, and uncertainty still visits. The difference is how the heart responds when these moments arrive. Instead of tightening immediately, it remembers how to soften. Instead of sending danger signals, it sends coherence. The body regains its capacity to adapt rather than endure. Buddha never taught escape from life's difficulties. He taught intimacy with experience without resistance. Metta trains the heart to stay open even when conditions are imperfect. This openness prevents emotional shockwaves from becoming biological stress. The heart remains responsive rather than reactive. In this way, compassion becomes a form of protection. Daily habits begin to change without force. Breathing becomes slower, not because you try, but because the body feels safe. Sleep deepens as the nervous system releases vigilance. Food is chosen more intuitively, movement becomes more fluid. The heart guides behavior subtly, without discipline or guilt. Self-care stops feeling like effort and starts feeling like respect. Scientific research increasingly supports this lived experience. Heart coherence improves communication between cardiovascular, immune, and endocrine systems. The body shifts from emergency chemistry into restorative chemistry. Cells receive clearer signals, tissues repair more efficiently, and energy stabilizes. This is not instant transformation, but cumulative alignment. Small moments of coherence quietly reshape long-term health. Emotionally, something equally important unfolds. Self-criticism loses its urgency because the heart no longer demands punishment. Comparison softens as inner sufficiency grows. Relationships feel less draining because boundaries become natural. You give without depletion and receive without fear. The heart learns balance through rhythm, not rules. Silence becomes a companion rather than an absence. Moments alone feel nourishing instead of empty. Awareness settles naturally into the body. You begin to sense when the heart drifts out of coherence and gently return. There is no struggle, only remembering. Practice becomes presence rather than repetition. Buddhist wisdom describes this as right relationship with experience. Modern psychology calls it emotional regulation. Biology recognizes it as homeostasis. Different languages point to the same truth. When the heart is coherent, life flows with less friction. Peace becomes practical, not philosophical. At some point, the listener realizes something deeply personal. Nothing was missing, and nothing needed fixing. The heart was waiting for permission to lead again. Health was never separate from kindness. Clarity was never separate from compassion. Everything was already connected. As this journey comes to a close, there is no dramatic ending, only a gentle invitation to listen more often, to place a hand on the chest during quiet moments, to let goodwill soften the inner environment, to trust the rhythm beneath the noise. The heart will do the rest. If this exploration resonated with something inside you, know that it is not coincidence. It is recognition. Here on Divine and Spiritual 0369, we continue these journeys into consciousness, healing, and inner truth. Not to teach, but to walk together. If you feel called, you are welcome to stay. The next step is already waiting within you.